The wife of a former member of parliament has come forward in her first television interview, revealing details about how she was terrorized by real-life baby reindeer stalker Fiona Harvey, and how thanks to Netflix, she fears that Fiona could do it again. She also reveals that Netflix did in fact lie about some of the details. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and this story just keeps getting crazier. Piers Morgan just had an exclusive interview with Laura Wray, who came in. She's a widow of ex-Labour MP Jimmy Wray. Said she was living in fear after hearing of Harvey was house hunting close to where she lives. Fiona had apparently been stalking, going after her for over 5 years, longer than apparently Richard Gadd faced her. And yeah, she told her full story about what happened. We're going to go through some clips, but just to summarize, she brought receipts as well for Piers's team to look through and acknowledge that, yeah, she brought her on in her law firm in 1997. After she was fired, she made a lot of false claims. I'm extremely concerned that this woman might be moving close to where I live, she told Piers, saying that she brought her on after receiving letters and feeling sorry for her. This is a common theme with Fiona, it seems. But she was forced to cut it short after 2 weeks due to inappropriate and rude behavior to colleagues and clients. Miss Wray, who issued staff with panic alarms, explained she shouted at people. She's tried to follow a male member of staff home. She threw a book across the office and hit somebody with it. She also said that when they asked for Harvey to leave after 2 weeks, a campaign of stalking started. Miss Wray told the show she'd only been there 2 weeks, and eventually my cashier and I had to march her out. And she stood there for at least a half an hour screaming abuse. It all started thereafter. Every day I'd come into the office, the answer phone would be full of messages from her, all threatening and nasty. Ms. Wray said Harvey then turned to the university 5 years later when she studied for exams to become a barrister. She said Harvey followed her around the uni, then contacted social services when she complained. After Miss Wray, whose husband Jimmy died in 2013, said she made complaints demanding that my son be taken into care. That was the point where I thought enough was enough. Her son is apparently disabled, and Fiona called in child welfare to look into it. Obviously, it didn't go anywhere because it was false, but this is the kind of woman Fiona was, and doing in revenge, it's just disgusting behavior. And in this interview, I got to be honest, Laura Wray was very credible. She came across very strong. I was watching the commenters. I was watching it with my team. I believe this woman wholeheartedly. So Fiona has got a lot of explaining to do. So let's go to some of these clips, specifically the parts about where she acknowledges that Netflix wasn't being honest. Netflix has a big problem here, in addition to some other details. So first, let's look at what Fiona said on Piers Morgan, and then you're going to see Laura's reply.
Why would two people who have no contact with each other at all, Laura Wray and Richard Gadd, why would they both portray you as a very unpleasant
I don't know why Richard Gadd has, but Laura Walker, it was certainly because I was going for parliamentary selection.
The two different, you get my point, two different people.
Yeah, but Richard Gadd has Googled that. Richard Gadd has used that as
well, that's in the drama,
show.
Is when they find out that you had previously harassed this family.
I haven't harassed that family.
When you saw that exchange, what went through your mind?
I was horrified. I mean, I've actually watched your interview a few times because the first time I saw it, I was in such shock watching her, seeing her, it just brought it all back again. And I've watched it several times to see what is it she's saying about me. And it's unbelievable that after the things she did, that she can say she wasn't harassing my family. Of course she was harassing my family.
For many years?
For many years. For longer than Richard Gadd.
When you've seen the fallout
this is nuts.
from the Netflix series.
Here, I want to go to this clip actually here. Sorry, I was getting my notes here because this just aired. I want to make sure I give you the most important parts about this. This next part is crucial because here.
Your letter to me when you contacted me was, unfortunately for me, I'm now collateral damage because Netflix allowed Miss Harvey to be so easily identifiable, which I think is inarguable. Have Netflix made any attempt to approach you?
Well, their solicitors spoke to me. They contacted somebody through the Mail on Sunday who then contacted me and asked me would I speak to their lawyers. So I had a conversation with them, and really what they wanted from me was a copy of the interim.
And when was this?
About a week ago I spoke to them.
A week ago? They only did it a week ago. That looks really bad, Netflix. That looks really bad. It looks like, oh crap, maybe this woman has evidence because we actually don't of these convictions.
A week ago, but you hadn't heard from them before that?
I hadn't heard from them before that. Certainly nobody approached me to say there's going to be a story coming out in which it will be very obvious that you are one of the victims.
Do you think from that it would be correct to assume they may be panicking a bit, Netflix, about the fallout from all this?
Well, I really don't know. I can't speak.
I mean, it seems very odd to me they've asked you for
Good answer, but Piers is right. His implication here is not wrong.
documentary evidence to support something which is a major plank of their series.
Yeah.
It's not a major plank. The conviction is a very minor part of it, and Laura's actually going to defend that later, but it's a bad look for Netflix.
Well, I suppose they've got to show that what they have done is materially true or substantially true. I'm not quite
Was
sure
what they
that
put in Baby Reindeer materially true about you?
Yes. Well, in the sense that there was a character who was a mother, that there was nothing of that in mind. But the thrust of it, which was that she was sacked from a law firm and turned on her boss, that's true.
Yeah.
That somebody in it was a barrister, I'm now a barrister, so I think that's where that bit comes from. And the bit about the sick stalker targeting the deaf child is absolutely clearly a reference taken along with everything else.
No question. I mean, that's straight from this story.
Yeah.
Have you ever met Richard Gadd?
No.
Because I put this question to her about how unusual it is to have somebody stalking two.
We just played that clip of asking. I want to go to this clip instead where we're going to talk about.
She's adamant that she's never been in court, let alone admitted to stalking him or being convicted. And there is no apparent evidence she ever was convicted of any crime. What do you make of that? Because that goes right to the heart, for many people, of the integrity of Richard Gadd's story.
It's hard to say, really. I mean, I can't say whether she's got any convictions or not. I know that the newspapers have looked for them and can't find them. In Scotland, convictions can be spent after a certain number of
But it
years.
says that she was convicted, for example, for 4.5 years for what she did to you and your family.
Well, she wasn't convicted for that. I didn't press any kind of criminal charges.
So that is untrue.
So that's untrue.
I mean, again, back to Netflix's duty of care, they're making it very easy for both Fiona Harvey and you to be quickly identified.
Yeah.
And yet a material fact that she was sent to prison for 4.5 years for harassing you and your family, like it appears the same thing that Richard Gadd is saying about what happened to him,
Yeah.
that neither of those things may be true.
Well, it doesn't appear they are true.
And you're
That's really bad for Netflix. That is really bad for Netflix. Again, because they said based on a true story at the start of episode 1. Now, they only said it on one episode. And then at the end of every episode, it says that some of these events and things are dramatized. But I'm going to bring in Black Belt Barrister. We're going to talk about this in more detail because this is a bad look. If she wasn't actually convicted, then yes, Netflix wasn't honest. But is that what's really causing damages to Fiona? That's my whole hang up. And Laura does a really good job of answering Piers here. I want to play this bit as well.
She may have a very legitimate case against Netflix, Richard Gadd, Clerkenwell Films, if it turns out she's never been convicted of any crimes. Twice in that series, both in relation to you and Richard Gadd, she's getting lengthy prison sentences for the stalking, and that doesn't appear to be true.
Well, I agree with you, but I think what you then have to look at is what is that actually worth in terms of damages. So you have to prove that your reputation has been damaged. As far as I understand it, I'm not aware that Fiona has ever held down a job anywhere. So I don't think there's any claim for loss of earnings.
But she has got top lawyers now, both here and in the US, going after Netflix quite hard.
Well,
Who thinks she has got a good case?
Well, I'm sure she may have a good case, but the question is then, certainly in Scotland, what would it be worth? You're looking at somebody who has a pattern of stalking, who stalked quite a number of people apart from myself. People have been coming out of the woodwork to me, frightened to come forward, but letting me know that they know what's going on.
Do you have any doubt that she is a dangerous stalker?
I have no doubt she's a dangerous stalker, no doubt whatsoever.
And that is the most important part of the show. That is the damage right there. That to me is what, if they lied about that, then I could see Fiona having a case. But this idea that, and Piers is so hung up on it, and I'd love to go back and debate this, the fact that he's so hung up on the specific of the convictions, I barely remember that part of the show. It's later in the series. What I take away from Martha is so much bigger than that. The conviction, if anything, is almost like, well, at least she served her time. So this idea that the one untrue thing is that she didn't serve her time, to me, doesn't make it worth more damages of defamation. Now, again, It just comes down to, is there a case? And in UK or Scotland, is it different? Maybe. And it doesn't look good for Netflix because now it seems pretty apparent that they don't have the full story. A lot more was in this. We're going to break it down for you tomorrow as well. In fact, we're going to get Black Belt Barrister in here this week as well to break down what are the legal chances. This changes everything. Now Netflix is sort of caught, and it looks like they kind of knew this early on. There's a lot more to unpack here, so make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for all alerts, smash that thumbs up as well, and leave a comment down below. What do you think of this story? What do you think of this woman? I think she's credible, man. Do you think Netflix is in trouble? Or do you think this is a bit of nothing and that Fiona deserves all this? I want to hear your thoughts down below. Stay tuned. We got so much more coming for you here on Popcorn Planet.